Hey, it's Ryan with SMB and One Up Off-Road. Today I'm going to be showing you an installation as well as an overview of our leaf spring shim kits, as well as our leaf spring pin kits here. So to get started, the pin kit's super simple, just 2 pins and nuts. These are great to have on hand because a lot of the times when you take your leaf spring apart, the pin kit's going to be broken. And then moving into the more important part of today's install, the shims themselves. And so very straightforward, very simple. We make them all a 1/4 inch thick. This kit includes 4. We have other kits that include 6. So what we're going to be doing with this is spacing apart our leaf springs in the back of the truck a little bit. We'll jump around back here in a second and show you how this is going to work. But by doing that, we can take a little bit of that initial toughness out of the spring pack while not giving up any of the total payload and towing capacity. So once that truck's fully loaded, it's still going to have all that spring right there, but just initially over speed bumps, expansion joints in the highway, we can get a little bit of that initial hit out of the leaf springs without any sacrifice. This is a great solution for anyone that's looking to make their Super Duty ride better, but still wants to use their truck like a truck and still wants to have that 3/4 ton, 1 ton leaf spring capacity in the back of the truck for towing your toy hauler, your car, trailer, or whatever it is that it might be. So now we're under the truck. We're working on a 2022 F250 today. This truck came equipped with 3 leafs in the leaf pack, as you can see here. We're going to be inserting a 1/4 inch shim between the bottom leaf and the middle leaf, and then another one between the middle leaf and the top leaf. This bottom leaf here is actually a traction control leaf. So when you mash the brakes or step on the gas, this is what's helped controlling axle wrap. On this truck, we've got a pair of our Torx bars installed. So we actually don't rely on this bottom leaf for traction control anymore, which is why we're able to insert this shim. If we don't have a traction control system, and we offer a ton of different options for you here on your truck, you cannot shim between this traction control leaf and the middle leaf, or else you're just going to introduce a ton of axle wrap, and it's going to be horrible for your truck. So do not do that. But in our case, we do. You can see bolted onto the bottom of the U-bolt plate here, and there's an arm going forward that ties into the frame. That's going to control all of our axle wrap. We don't need this too anymore. So we're going to shim in between here and get some of that initial stiffness out, give it a little more space in these softer upper leaves before we get into this thick bottom leaf, and try to get some of the sharpness out of the rear ride of this Super Duty while still maintaining its ability to tow. So again, one shim's going to go in here, one shim's going to go in here. We're going to crack the U-bolts loose, pull this leaf pack apart, and get the shim slid in with the new pin kit, slap it all back together, and we'll show you exactly how that works now. So we went ahead and pulled the wheel off so you can better see exactly what we're doing here. But where the factory has these 2 little kind of shims in here, we're going to be replacing those with our larger 1/4 inch shims. Here's the factory pin that we're going to be replacing in the top. We're going to reuse the factory top plate. We do have some solutions for different top plates if you want to run like a dual airbag mount, or different configurations of U-bolts. And then if we come out further here, you'll see the traction system we're talking about and why we're able to shim between this traction component of the leaf pack. And here is because this is our new traction control system in this truck. And so this is our Torx bar style. This fits all the 17 and newer Super Duties, but we've got traction bars that fit every single truck on the market. So regardless of what truck you have, we have a solution for you. And then anything with 3-inch wide leaf springs or shims will work with. So we're going to start pulling apart the U-bolt now. Good. This truck uses 15/16 bolts on the bottom. So now we can pop our U-bolts up out of our bottom plate and set that aside. And then remove the U-bolt up and over the leaf pack and set those aside. We're going to go ahead and remove our rear shock. Some rear shocks may allow the leaf pack to separate before the shock reaches full extension, but it's easier while we're here. Hand right now, we will go ahead and remove the passenger side shock as well. we're going to go ahead and loosen the nuts on the U-bolts for the passenger side. So we got the driver's side completely, the U-bolts are out of the truck. We don't want the U-bolts out of the truck on both sides at the same time, just for safety to control the axle. So we're just going to back these off like 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to loosen these up. I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. And then we'll return back to this side and start getting the shims in place. So we're going to start taking some weight off the back of the truck here so I can get the block removed. So we're going to go ahead and start lifting up now. Okay, so we can now see that the block can come out of the truck. And with the block removed, I'll get a pair of vice grips real quick. We're going to get on the pin. So now we can start removing our pin kit, but before we do that, we're going to want to get some C-clamps and install them on our leaf pack here. C-clamps are installed, and we want to make sure that we have a lot of thread between the spring and the C-clamp, so that as we go to uncompress the springs, we have plenty of thread to work with. I've got my vice grips on the bottom of my pin here, so I can start loosening this without the pin just spinning. That broke free. Once I get this nut all the way off, I don't want this pin to come out until I have a screwdriver dropped in the hole right behind it. So we don't want the springs to slide on each other. So we're going to try to manage this leaf spring pack, keep it all together. So I think I'm hand tight now. Try to come off here. So we'll come right behind this with the screwdriver. Might have to come up one more time to get this out of the... We might have to lift up a little bit more to get this pin all the way out, but the screwdriver's in place now. So now we need to create the separation here between our leaves. So we're going to start slowly undoing our clamps, and you can see how immediately we're getting that separation we're looking for. So we're going to need to pry. We're going to need to pry this bottom leaf off. So we need to put this clamp in on these top two to make sure this doesn't just fall out of the truck while we pry. And if you weren't putting a shim between the bottom leaf and the middle leaf, you wouldn't need to do any of these steps here. But I can remove our clamp from the front since these two leaves are clamped together up front from the factory. But now I can work on, we'll start prying off like that. So first, we're going to install our lower shim here. And you can notice there's enough pin to go through the shim and get into the next leaf. And then go ahead and get our second shim in as well. So with both shims in, I'm going to have my colleague come help here. We're going to reattach this bottom leaf to the main leaf pack so we can start working on getting our pin back in. Okay. We got both of our shims in here, got the C-clamps back on to tighten this up so that we're almost ready to install our new pin, and then you can kind of wiggle the screwdriver around, make sure we're going to be able to get the pin in freely. So here's the old pin we took out. With the two shims, you can tell that we're not really going to have any extra on top, and we want plenty of threads so that that nut's strong in the pin kit. So we're going to pull a measurement here. The new pin is 6 inches long, so it'll fit, you know, any combination of leaf. We're going to pull a measurement here of what we need. So it goes into the block slightly, and then we're looking at about 4 inches to be safe here on a 6-inch pin. And that's going to help us not have to lift the truck as high, and then also not have just crazy extra that we have to cut off in the truck. So I'm going to pull 4 inches from the end here, go cut this on a chop saw real quick, and then I'll chase it with a tap. With the die, and we'll get this pin installed. My cut pin here, so I'm going to remove my screwdriver as I press upwards with my pin. If the pin doesn't want to go through, just wiggle, you know, every direction on the screwdriver, kind of try to feel where that pin's binding up, and then pry a little bit harder right there. And then that's going to let us get our ratchet. So I've got this hand tight now. I've got my deep 11/16, and I'm going to come in here and torque the pin down. And we're just going to snug that up. And then go ahead and remove our vice grips. And then the clamps will be next. And now I can go ahead and get my block roughly back in place, and we'll slowly start to let the weight of the truck down and make sure we line up this pin from the pin kit as we come down.
Come a little more.
So we're going to make sure the block is square, which we can. This truck has the snout, so it's easy to see. That's lined up with the axle, which it is now. So we will put all the weight back on the truck. We're going to reinstall our U-bolts now. And then our factory bottom plate will index into the plate for our torque spurs. We'll get this whole thing pushed back through. Like so. There we go. Got our U-bolts installed here. We did 2 1/4-inch shims on this truck, so we needed longer U-bolts. We offer all the different U-bolt lengths, so we have all those available. We ended up going with some 14-inch U-bolts and cut them down a little bit to be perfect here on this 2022 F-250, but every truck's different even within the model years. So we've got everything tightened back up here. You're going to want to torque your U-bolts to the factory spec for your truck. Every truck's a little different. So we've got these torqued down. If you're going to be moving on to the other side, you'll want to loosen these up or not torque them all the way yet, and then come back and tighten them all the way up at the end. But this side is completely wrapped up here. The other side is the identical procedure, so we're not going to show you that. But we can swing around here and show you one more time. So looking right in here, you're going to be able to see the shims in between the first and second, and the second and third leaf, our new pin kit installed, our new U-bolts. So that's everything we did today. Pretty straightforward install, but if you have any questions, give us a call. We're happy to help you out at any time. Thank you.